Radiotherapy is such an amazing technology. It's not rocket science. It's difficult. It can be done, but not if you don't listen to frontline staff.
Professor Pat Price, distinguished academic leader, researcher and author, fierce advocate and thought leader. Pat is a true trailblazing figure in the clinical oncology field, endlessly promoting, challenging, advising and supporting radiotherapy treatments. With a passion for patient advocacy that transcends borders, Pat works tirelessly to promote accessibility and equity in cancer care, from the lecture hall to the public and parliamentary spotlight. She's also an esteemed academic and educator, committed to nurturing the next generation of oncology researchers and practitioners and empowering them to drive positive change in the field. So get ready to be inspired, informed and empowered as we delve into the remarkable world of Professor Pat Price and her continued transformative impact on the fight against cancer. Welcome to this episode of Spilling the RT. I'm your host, Emily Bassett. Pat, have you always been a trailblazer?
Oh, I don't know if I'd describe myself as a trailblazer, but I've been always keen to improve patient care, and I've always been excited about radiotherapy and what it's got to offer.
Okay, and what would you say motivates you? Because you have got a lot on your plate. You're taking on a lot. Is there something that sort of keeps driving you to do all of these things?
Yeah, good point, actually. And in fact, I get criticised perhaps for doing too much sometimes, so I've got to focus. I think the patients drive you on. You know, cancer is a very serious thing, and I know we can do better. So I think I'm the sort of person that if they see a problem, they want to try and sort it out, as opposed to just watch it. So I think that's just within me. And I think it's really the patients that drive you on, because it can be so much better. And then it's absolutely lovely working in oncology and lovely working with colleagues in radiotherapy. It's so interesting, such a team spirit there. And you just want to make a difference, really.
Oh, and you mentioned patients there. How accessible would you say radiotherapy in particular, or radiotherapy services, are to patients across different regions of the UK?
Sadly, we know that they're not very accessible. We've got that hero data from Europe a while back saying that for the UK demographics, we should have about 53% of patients accessing radiotherapy, rising to 60% by, I think it's 2040 or something. Currently, the average in the UK is only 36%, and some areas are low at about 29%. So there's vast variations, and it's not enough wherever they are. So we've got to do better. We're just not giving patients access to radiotherapy, which in this day and age is madness, really.
One of the campaigns that you've come up with is the Catch Up with Cancer campaign. Can you remember a particular moment when you thought, okay, this is not good and something really needs to change for radiotherapy in the UK?
Well, interesting. We had started the Radiotherapy for Life campaign about 2018, so a couple of years before COVID and before we started the Catch Up with Cancer campaign. And I think that was the realisation that things weren't getting better. We had a good time in radiotherapy way back in the 2000s when we had a cancer plan and we had a radiotherapy advisory group. And between about 2000 and 2008, cancer care was really improving, radiotherapy was really improving, and it came at a time when the technology was getting better. You think, yay, we're really doing well here. And then when we had NHS England and they disbanded NRAG, it then seemed to falter. And it just seemed to get worse and worse. So about 2017, 2018, we realised, hang on a second, this is not going to get better. And so we started this with the community, this Radiotherapy for Life, and with industry and the industry task force, which was great. And we were trying to really raise awareness, because we're finding that when decisions were being made about cancer, radiotherapy was not in the room. We didn't have a voice. It was much easier for the drug industry because they had huge marketing budgets for every drug. They were really skilled at this. Well, good for them. But the community is just the workforce and industry. And it was just so small. Our UK workforce is just over 6,000 people. treating over 100,000 people a year. It's tiny, and they're so busy they haven't got time for advocacy. So that's when we formed with Tim Farron. He set up the all-party parliamentary group for radiotherapy because he needed radiotherapy where he was and he wasn't getting it, and he really got it. So we worked with him, the charity did, to set up this Radiotherapy for Life campaign. So we were making some progress in trying to gather data, trying to get in the room, and then COVID came along. And absolutely everything went to pot. And I remember we were only about a week into lockdown, and I'd be getting people phoning up to say their cancer operation has just been cancelled, and they were told that nobody knew what was going to happen, and almost shop around for the private sector. It was awful. And I just thought, oh my goodness, I know a lot of things had to stop for COVID, but cancer care did not have to stop for COVID. And so that's when it really galvanised us. And then there was more publicity, and Deborah James, who's an advocate, was involved, and Craig with his daughter. And we eventually set up the Catch Up with Cancer campaign by about the June, a few months after COVID. And then that took off. So we've married the Catch Up with Cancer campaign with the Radiotherapy for Life campaign. And I was hoping it may work, and within a few months or a year it might get better. And sadly, we're still here advocating because it's not got better. So there's a lot to do.
Just a couple of days ago, a commentary co-authored by yourself, Professor Richard Sullivan, and Professor Mark Lawler was published in the Lancet entitled "Living Within Our Means, Trouble Ahead for England's Cancer Planning." And there's one point that I hope I haven't misquoted this, that Professor Lawler made in an article that I read about the paper. And he mentioned Denmark as an example of a country that has turned this around.
It could be turned around. I don't think we've got long, though, because I think it needs to be turned around. We have, since the main issue in the UK is that the cancer pathway has broken down. Mm-hmm. So that once you've getting a diagnosis, then get the patients through in a timely manner to have their treatment is actually, that was held together by people before doing things and whatever, and that broke down in COVID, and that has not been really put back together again. And I think there are a lot of pressures, and so that is the problem that is actually will be costing lives, because we know that for every 4 weeks delay in that treatment there is an up to 10% increased risk of dying of cancer. So time is really important, and so unless we put that back together again, people are going to die unnecessarily. And what Denmark did was realise their cancer survival was not good a while back, and got a really good long-term vision and for how to get a cancer plan that works. We know the WHO has said that all countries should have a national cancer control plan, absolutely. And Denmark did it by working, and now from being one of the lowest, they're one of the best. So we know it can be done. And in some ways, if you think about it, it's not rocket science. We're not saying we want a new cure for cancer. We're just saying, can we deliver the treatments we've got that can cure cancer in a timely manner, in the best way, to the patients that need it? That is organisation. Now, if patients are dying because we can't organise ourselves, that is unforgivable. So we need to get a national cancer control plan, and we don't just want a piece of paper that sits there saying this is what we've got to do. We need absolutely action. And what we've said in this recent article is that we had a good cancer plan in 2000, and that worked really well. That was actually backed by money. That was backed by an independent cancer czar who had for radiotherapy, we had a national radiotherapy awareness group. They made decisions, they got good plans. They said, this will work, let's do it. And then it was implemented. That was great. But now we've got a backlog, which, is a problem. The NHS is in a big problem. We've also got an increasing incidence of cancer, and the cancer care pathway has got more complex. So it's difficult. It can be done, but not if you don't listen to frontline staff and actually take a really good attack on this and prioritise it. Our concern with the recent Lancet paper is that actually there's not a lot of money around. And I think everybody knows there's financial crisis over the last few years for a number of reasons. And now with the American system of the way the changes they've made since the beginning of the year, there's probably going to be less money. And so we've got to realise that there's no more money coming around the corner for this. And that's probably the same for all countries. So we have to live within our means. And I think the only way you can do that is by getting an overview of the whole system and then saying, where have we got to make decisions? And I think if you have at the heart of it, patient survival and patient care backed by evidence base, you will make the right decisions. If you don't have an overview, or if you're listening to somebody lobbying here, this, that, and the other, there'll be things funded that aren't going to get you where you need to be. And so this needs great leadership, great decision making, and absolute focus on improving cancer care. But again, I get back to it. We cannot have patients dying just because we can't organise ourselves.
And I guess, I'm sitting here at Elekta, where we're thinking more about some of those tools maybe that could apply to catch up for a campaign like Catch Up to Cancer, and more on the obviously technology side. But are there any particular advances that have been made in radiotherapy technology or techniques in recent years that you find exciting and that you find could be helpful to tackle this?
Well, absolutely, because radiotherapy, as we keep saying, is such an amazing technology. You think it's needed in 50% of cancer patients. It's needed in the curative treatment of 40%. It cures a huge number of cancer patients on its own, and particularly the ones where we're putting screening programs in now for prostate and lung. Yeah. Half will need surgery, half will need curative radiotherapy. And also, radiotherapy, compared to other things, is really cheap. And so this is one of the ways I think getting ourselves out of this is by technology, and it's about technology that can be smarter, treat patients more quickly, more accurately and better, and also help the workforce. And radiotherapy, it's all about the workforce and the technology. Put those two together, you have got massive advances. Take AI, for instance. I know it's a lot, and I know Elekta in their machines for, with your MR-Linac, you've got AI that's actually helping localize. But for our end of it, the planning radiotherapy, we know that AI, in terms of auto contouring, that can save me 2 hours in a patient. Now and for the price of about £40. And I say to people, or €40 if it's European, and I say to ministers, so my time is £20 an hour. That is actually extremely cheap for a consultant time. And also there's been a really good survey and an audit in the UK, because you can actually get, if I only have one planning session every week, if I can't get through the numbers, it lays out. And it showed that by using AI contouring, you could actually cut down your waiting list for breast cancer radiotherapy by 5 days and for prostate cancer by 9 days. So suddenly you've got a tool that actually can reduce waiting lists. So what are we doing? Let's get on. And interestingly, in the UK, the last government in July, before they had the general election, announced 15 million for investment in radiotherapy auto contouring. We thought, terrific. Talking of bureaucracy, somehow that's sort of got lost suddenly now. And we're making a lot of fuss about it. And it seems to be, everybody you talk to, ministers, departments of health, they're all thinking, what happened to the money? And it's obviously somebody made a decision somewhere that they could save a bit of money, not thinking about the whole picture. And that's a great example about how we have to think about the whole picture. Of course, we should have that. So these are the ways we can actually get technology to help us out of this. So I think that the next cancer control plans have to be absolutely dependent on good technology, good communication. And this will be great for us because it's the workforce we're lacking. This can help the workforce.
Absolutely. And it's so important that we're talking to that workforce and actually understanding what they need.
The workforce know what they need, because as I was saying to somebody at the interview earlier in the week, when I was a consultant years ago, as a consultant, you were in charge of your own patients. It was your job to get them through that cancer pathway quickly, give them the best treatment, whatever. And the managers were there to help you do that. Now it's completely the opposite way around. And you wonder about who is in control of this. And you need every brain working on this at the same time, optimizing things, improving things every day in every way. So you need to empower our frontline staff are world class, and they need to be given the tools they need to do their job, and they want to do their job. The radiotherapy workforce is so precious and so special.
I completely agree. Slightly biased, so. I think it's really great that you talk really positively about AI as well, and actually reference a use case for it, because I think so there can be some negative perceptions or press around AI, particularly in the medical field. So I think that's fantastic. Is there any other sort of initiative or research, because I know you're heavily involved in research as well, other than AI, that you think is particularly exciting or promising?
It's always, I think that the research now is, it's sort of two camps, isn't it? There's one, how to improve our cancer treatments, and obviously immunotherapy developments are fantastic, and it's so wonderful to see radiotherapy up there with immunotherapy now, because obviously the damage that radiation damage does stimulate the immune response. And if we can actually work harder at how that is done, there's so much great radiobiology work coming out now, how we can do that. So not only sparing normal tissue, but stimulating that immune response. I'm involved in a large scale project myself, looking at some flexibility of using ion therapy, partly to get the understanding of the biology about how we can get, because we know radiotherapy is brilliant. So it is, how can we actually get it used in a way that it stimulates the immune response better, and actually then can work with the immunotherapy. We know even SBRT itself is nudging in that direction, but radiotherapy can do so much more. So there's huge amount of interest there. And then obviously there's good research that's health service research. It's about how we deliver our treatments better. I must say the UK doing very well in their audits of actually just seeing what's going on and looking at variation. There was an excellent audit done on prostate side effects with radiotherapy, and looking around the country in an open way and actually putting it online and seeing that some centres had a difference in about 35% in terms of toxicity, and it ended up being small tweaks. So by learning together and optimizing radiotherapy, amazing things can be done. So I feel the field of radiotherapy, coupled with immunotherapy coming along, is such a great future. And it's fantastic treatment. So, and I think what I've seen in my career over the time, that now the technology is really whizzing along. It's what the industry is doing for radiotherapy is just amazing. And I think it's probably ahead of what we can think of. So I think the more you guys can actually be doing all this whizzy technology, you think we can get down from, we used to treat with square blocks. Now we can get down to all that precision, optimize it in dose rate, fractionation, with immunotherapy, reducing toxicity. Oh, amazing, amazing. Very exciting.
So exciting. I love the way you talk about radiotherapy in general. And as you say, I think multidisciplinary collaboration absolutely vital to the sort of success of radiotherapy in the future. And, other disciplines finding out more about radiotherapy, because it can feel a bit niche, I think. But really understanding not only, how radiotherapy works, but how it could actually help their specialism work better for patients is really exciting, I think. Yeah.
Radiation therapy or radiotherapy is a cornerstone in the ongoing effort to combat cancer. It's been an integral part of cancer medicine for over 100 years, and it keeps evolving. Radiotherapy can offer a powerful alternative to invasive surgery, with clinicians employing the ability to treat cancer, control cancer, and alleviate some symptoms of cancer, such as severe pain. Whether delivered externally or internally through brachytherapy, it targets cancerous lesions with high-intensity, controlled, precisely guided X-rays. These X-rays destroy cancer cells by inflicting irreparable damage to their DNA, halting their growth. The mission of radiotherapy is clear and resolute: eradicate cancer cells while safeguarding healthy cells from harm. Cancer cells, more vulnerable than their healthy counterparts, are systematically targeted across multiple treatments or fractions, allowing normal cells time to repair and minimising side effects. Every patient receives a tailored treatment plan with a number of fractions or treatment sessions. And new, more advanced technologies, together with clinical evidence, continually refine radiotherapy, making life better for patients by making radiotherapy treatments more precise and more effective, and meaning that for more patients and increasing cancer types, fractions or treatment visits can be reduced. Radiation therapy is pivotal treatment in the journey of more than half of all cancer patients, and 40% of all patients cured will have radiotherapy as a vital part of their treatment regime. As its role expands, promising clinical trials are continuously underway, heralding a future of even greater advancements. But despite the millions of radiotherapy courses administered each year, not everyone has the privilege of access. And timely and equitable care can dramatically improve cancer outcomes and survival rates, underscoring the urgent need in many countries for expanded availability.
Can you tell us a bit about your pioneering work with PET technology?
Yes, that's interesting, because another area I've done some research in is molecular imaging, and that's PET imaging, so radiolabeled isotopes and putting them into man and following them with detectors. It's most people know that from detection of cancer and diagnosis, but I was lucky enough to work on the research environment of actually looking at tracers in man and how they develop. So we did a lot of work when I was on the MRC cyclotron unit years ago on drug development and how drugs moved around the place, that type of thing. And very fortunately, over the last 15 years, I've been involved in the development of the new technology, which is called the total body PET imaging. So that is basically having many more detectors to scan the whole body. So basically, you can get 40 times as much data. And so the important thing for there is that hopefully there's two main things that will help in oncology, is to be able to have it so sensitive you can get down and image and see what's going on with microscopic disease, which is great. But what's so exciting for radiotherapy is that actually you can now tag molecules and see how they go around the body, and particularly immune cells. So what we've been working on is the radiolabeling of the immune cells and seeing how they're moving and getting methodology for that. We first worked in COVID looking at patients and the immune response. Fantastic in different patients. And now the plan is to do that in radiotherapy to see if we can look at that effect with the immune response and see how if we can develop a methodology with this total body to see how those immune cells are responding to the radiotherapy and how they're interacting with the immune, to how we can actually get a readout for that's a positive effect and see how again we can optimize that radiotherapy. So I think that for me is bringing together the biology, particularly in the particle work with the LARA program I'm working on, and also then in terms of actually what's going on in the body with radiotherapy. And I think that will be some great leaps forward, because we know that it has an effect, but we haven't got many tools to find out exactly what's going on and how we get that better. So I'm really excited about that. And the answer is out there and it's up to us to find it. So on the research bit of me, I'm really excited about that.
That sounds really interesting. And I think going back to what we were saying about sort of radiotherapy and its profile, the more these other sciences and disciplines can come in and make the treatment more personalised, the more I think it helps to elevate the sort of view of radiotherapy in general as this more sort of cutting edge treatment rather than the way that maybe it's been seen for the last 20 years.
I think, again, I've had a real mission in the last few years is to make sure radiotherapy is out there in the whole of the cancer continuum. And again, what we do with the Global Coalition for Radiotherapy is not so much always talking to ourselves, but how we talk out there. How do we talk to the drug industry? How do we talk to national cancer control plans? How do we talk to imaging? So it's about, we've got to do two things in radiotherapy: talk to ourselves, obviously, and optimize it, but we must be getting out there. And I think through research and through what we're doing with the Global Coalition, hopefully that can actually put radiotherapy in the place with everybody else, which which is where it needs to be. And certainly I know the drug industry with immunotherapy now really want to get to know radiation oncologists. So let's get in there. And a lot more work now in terms of radionuclide therapy. So I think our time is there and we have to respond to it, but we're a small community, so we really have to work hard and advocate. And I think everybody can do that.
Yeah, work hard and work together.
Yes, absolutely.
Can you tell me a bit about how the Global Coalition for Radiotherapy came about?
Oh, well, yes, that was interesting. That again was a COVID initiative because again, there we all were in COVID and it was all breaking down. So we had the idea as we're working, it started from the UK task force that we'd had in radiotherapy anyway. So there was great support from Advomed and Elekta and Varian, and particularly Therese from Elekta has been fantastic in this. And we suddenly thought, whoa, we've quickly got to pivot radiotherapy because we knew that treatment could carry on in COVID and it needed to carry on, but what should we do? So we had the idea of trying to get together, remotely. And actually what we did was really interesting. I had some context from Wuhan and actually really 8th of April, we had our first get together. And if you remember, we don't want to remember back to that time, but we remember back to that time when it was constructed. So what we did, we had webinars every 3 weeks across almost as COVID across the world. So first of all, hearing from Wuhan, then hearing from the Italians, then the UK, then the Americans, what the situation was like, what was coming down the line, what modifications they'd made. It was so interesting and so important. And then went on to the fractionation. And then it seemed that we had a global community. And again, we're a small group, aren't we? But the key thing was to involve everybody in that community. So that's clinicians, it's patients, it's industry, it's voices out there that we all talk radiotherapy and with the solutions. And I'm so committed to, we have to work with industry. They're our partners. It's the workforce and technology. That's the way forward. And so that then developed. Then we were called upon by the WHO to help with the Ukraine situation. They were having difficulties and industry did such a lot of work. Elekta were finding out what was going on in different centres remotely. That was fantastic for the WHO to know. We've worked with the global community getting solutions for that. That carried on as our task force for areas of conflict. And then it was clear that we needed to have a better advocacy and also some essentials in radiotherapy. We developed the Radiotherapy Essentials, which is essentially saying what should be in national cancer control plans for radiotherapy, not just a footnote, technical bit at the back in the appendix. This is actually should be live, and that's been great, contributing from all over the world, and we're working on that. And then the next phase should be how, with implementation science, about how we implement that and get to value-based healthcare. So essentially putting all the world's expertise together and actually see what we can do. And I think the technology has helped that. We've got fantastic juniors group, the residence group, that are doing great online stuff. And now there's a group of them training for Ukraine remotely. This is amazing. And then out of this has come the initiative from Katie and Sandra about the World Radiotherapy Awareness Day. So it's created a quick, responsive community to what our needs for and improving patient care. So it's been really exciting.
It truly is. And also, I would say there may be, hopefully, someone listening to this podcast, someone listening who thinks, yeah, I'm really passionate about radiotherapy, but I don't see myself as an advocate. They look at people such as yourselves and a bit in awe, but also maybe a little bit intimidated and think, I don't think I could do that. But actually, I think one of the great things about the GCR and the website is really simple. And there's two things that I would pick out that are fantastic. If anyone hasn't been on, they should go and have a look. One is the RT Advocacy Toolkit, because it gives you really simple tools that you can use. And the other is the fact sheet, because I think something that you're fantastic at. I mean, I live in the UK. I see you frequently on the news. I'm like, go Pat. But you're brilliant at sort of using these statistics. And I think sometimes that's the sort of thing that people feel a bit vulnerable around. But actually, if they know that there's assets like those fact sheets there, really simply put, then anyone could potentially do this sort of elevator pitch that I think you do so well. So yeah, I think congratulations for that. And I hope more people look it up because it's got some great tools.
I think that's a good point. And perhaps when I started this, I think people mustn't be intimidated. I'm just an ordinary person. I tell you, okay, I do a lot of media work now, but I found it difficult to start with. I always said live TV, I'd much rather give birth to my children. It was, but you just think you've got to do this. And I'm more comfortable, obviously, as the years have gone on. But you're right. It's about having the right information, because you think to yourself, perhaps I'm wrong, perhaps I'm thinking that. But what's fantastic about radiotherapy is because there is good, solid data that's been researched, and all the stuff we say, it's evidence-based. So as you say, people need to pick up those fact sheets. These are true facts. And so if they can advocate them, we can all be advocates. I find some of the best advocates actually are patients. Absolutely brilliant. We had a meeting in Parliament just recently. Fantastic patient advocates. She was telling us where some of her friends were living. There's a 6-month wait for breast cancer radiotherapy.
Wow.
Horrendous. But she communicated it so clearly, and the patient, one of her friends, was even told, well, it's so late, do you want to bother having it? And this sort of messaging in clear speaking, and she knew what was needed to be done, was amazing. And she's a patient. So I think we can all be advocates. And I think I would call to everybody, all be advocates. If you can, in your local centres, you have to advocate. Usually radiotherapy is in the basement, isn't it? Everybody forgets about it. Haven't got a radiotherapy tomorrow? And people don't know enough about radiotherapy. We've got to be out there speaking about it. And I think hopefully that's one of the things we've done well in the UK, that actually we've got the word. I think they now can say the difference between radiotherapy and radiology in Parliament. We even had prime ministers saying the word radiotherapy and understanding it. You've got to keep at it, but everybody should be advocating, because we're really advocating for our patients, aren't we?
Definitely. And you're right, you have to keep at it. But have you actually ever taken a moment to celebrate any of the things that you've achieved? Because I feel like you're going at 100 miles an hour all the time. Do you ever sort of stand back and think, okay, we're doing good work here?
That's a good point. I think I occasionally have my yay moment, but you usually find that the yay moment is followed by something else. That's another problem. It's a little bit like toothpaste squeezing, it's coming out somewhere else. So I think can't be complacent. And I've learned it's a bit like you're going up, and there's constantly ups and downs, and you could get very low at the downs, and a little bit doesn't perhaps make up for the downs, but as long as your general trajectory is up, and then it's more to do with losing heart rather than the celebratory moments, and that's why I think we're really good about it. So I think we should obviously strategically, we have moments where we think, okay, what's gone right and what's gone wrong? Where do we have to change messaging? Where do we have to get more influence? All these sorts of things. And, I think, and funding's an issue. And you've got to call out to your sort of helpers, really. The UICC has been really helpful now towards helping us with the GCR, and Elekta has been absolutely brilliant. But it's about knowing that it's a long game, actually. And so you're never quite there. But yeah, we should give ourselves a pat on the back sometime. And it's not me, it's the team. So yay moments.
It is, and as you say, it is a long game. So you definitely need to take time off. Do you take time off? Do you relax, or how do you relax when you're not working?
I'm really bad at time off. But I think there's a lot of work to be done. So it's very motivating that way. How do I take time off? I run, which clears my head. And I also see my family. So that's good for me.
I have a question that comes from our mutual friend, Matthias, who works here at Elekta. He really wants to know why there isn't a TV show or drama around oncology or radiotherapy on the TV. Any thoughts around that? Or who could be our own Dr. Derek Shepherd McDreamy in that show, or not going to happen?
I think it's, I'm not sure cancer I think people have difficulty with cancer looking at it all the time. And so want to dip in out. So I think, I don't know if there's going to be, because people want the struggle and the success, and cancer's a little bit more complicated than that. But I think, again, all we can do is get it where it can do. It's interesting. Years ago, I advised on a film David Hare made a long time ago. And they had, in the centre of that, the main character was a radiation oncologist, which was fantastic. And we had a patient that was having radiotherapy, and that was really interesting. And we got it there, but that was a long time ago. I think we could do with more of it, but perhaps it's a bit scary sometimes, but I think he's right. If we had this, if somebody's out there, this will be great.
Yeah, I can't quite, like you, I can't quite picture how it will work, but it would be great, wouldn't it?
Great.
But I believe there was an episode on Emmerdale, which is a UK soap recently that featured radiotherapy. You say that that film was a few years ago, but all these things help, I think, don't they, to contribute?
And I think it's because I do think we've got to present radiotherapy as a positive thing as well, as cancer. Because I sounds ridiculous saying cancer is a positive thing, but I think for treating cancer patients, I think, it's awful. Yeah, but 1 in 2 people get it. We've got to help people on their journey to come to terms with it. And I think part of that then is understanding treatment. But I think we're very much thinking now, radiotherapy, most people only hear about radiotherapy when they're going to have it. We need to know about radiotherapy in our daily lives. And I think that it is a bit of a niche area, as you say. It's little understood, but I think we need to demystify it and not frighten people. There's always these radiation signs, this sort of thing, scary stuff, instead of just saying this is safe, effective treatment and it cures patients. And perhaps that link with technology, as our understanding of technology gets there, we can make that link. It's really important that radiotherapy is not a big scary thing. It's there. And if you think 1 in 4 people in their lifetime will probably have radiotherapy, we probably need to know about it.
Absolutely. My final question for you was going to be, what's next? I think you're going to say just keep going. But is there anything on the horizon that you're particularly looking forward to?
I think it is keep going. Obviously, in the UK, I'm looking forward to the development of the National Cancer Control Plan. I'll be, I've told the Department of Health, I'll be there. If there's not radiotherapy, you'll be hearing from me again if you want to get rid of me. So although I know it's going to take a long time, and there's a lot of work for the community to do after that. And globally, I hope we can develop the funding and get the model right so that we can do that important work to help to reach out to all of the world. There's still 38 countries that don't have any radiotherapy, and even even countries like the UK, we don't have enough radiotherapy. So there's a amount of work to be done. Budgets are tight, but it's so important. And if people could just think of the long term and think of the investment now in technology is always going to pay dividends. And it's about getting people to understand radiotherapy, use more of it, and also to keep reprioritizing cancer. I know there's a lot of pressures economically, energy, the whole of health, but when it gets down to it, is patients really care about cancer? And cancer is really important and is at the top of people's agenda as well. So we mustn't lose sight of that.
Pat, thank you so much for your time today. I know you're super busy doing a lot of very important work, but I feel really grateful that you've been able to come on and share some of the work that you've been relentlessly doing. And my hope is that someone listening to this feels inspired by that, because I think we can all be advocates in our own way. But yeah, keep doing what you're doing, and thank you so much.
Pleasure.
If you enjoyed today's episode, then don't forget to like and subscribe wherever it is on your screen, and tune in for the next episode.